Thanks for joining me. I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you. Today I want to talk about the latest trailer that was released regarding Pokémon Legends ZA. This is, I think, a week or two old. I've just been away from my office. I'm back in my office now. And I wanted to discuss a couple visual aspects that caught my attention that to me make this look much better than the previous games in the Pokémon series that we've seen on the Switch. Now, in the trailer we see the Switch 2 version of the game, but between the Switch and Switch 2 the visuals will largely be the same in that the assets, the aesthetic will be the same, and it's really only the performance that's improved between the Switch and the Switch 2. Now, I'm going to be pretty positive about what I see in the visuals here, and if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. If you think this game looks bad, you can certainly feel that way. There's nothing wrong with that, and I enjoy hearing from you. The vast majority of my friends disagree with me on many topics. A lot of my friends don't even like Pokemon. They say that it's not fun or it sucks, and that does not affect our friendship at all. We just get to talk about different stuff. So there's a term I hear on the internet. You will have to pardon me as I'm not well versed in meme culture and modern terminology, but I believe there is a term people use to refer to things they think don't look good, and I think many people would refer to this game as looking like booty cheeks. I'm unfamiliar really with the origin of this term nor its full implications, though I believe it means that something looks bad. So if you believe this game looks like booty cheeks, that's totally fine. You're allowed to dislike something, you're allowed to say that you dislike something, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comment section. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I'm going to point out some aspects that I think just look good here, particularly what makes it look better than Scarlet and Violet. Something that's a little bit disappointing to me, I'm a big fan of these games, a big fan of Game Freak, but over the decades they have yet to be able to master making Pokemon games effectively in 3D. Making a 3D game is very different from making a 2D game. I currently am wrapping up development on a number of my own games, so I don't have the luxury of time to spend all day talking about this, so I'll try to keep things succinct and to the point. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the trailer, and we'll just run through it, and I will point out a couple things that I find interesting. For starters, there's a much better understanding of atmospheric lighting when it comes to this game, especially over Scarlet and Violet. For example, you see a blue haziness that indicates a sense of density in the atmosphere. It creates the effect of sunlight bouncing off of moisture particles, dirt, dust, and other debris in the air, and it creates that soft haziness that gives things an organic look. But something that I'm going to point out a few times in this video is the use of rim lighting, and it's basically the secret ingredient here that makes it look so much better than Scarlet and Violet. Now, the rim lighting that we see here helps the characters pop out of the background a fair bit. You see, if we did not have this rim lighting here along the edge of the character, you can see it is apparent. Without that, the characters would really just blend into their environment much more. It makes the character look very flat, particularly because this game does not use advanced shaders when it comes to complexity for calculating light and shadow. In Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon and the character models used what is called physically based shaders. It's a way to calculate complex lighting and shadow in a way where they can portray reflections, shininess, make something look wet or dry, and it's something that has an impact on the frame rate. When you use physically based shaders and advanced lighting and advanced shading and shadows and all that calculation and reflection, it makes the frame rate drop. The more things you have on screen, the more calculations the hardware has to perform. What we see in this game are shaders. A shader is a part of the game program that tells the game engine how geometry is supposed to be rendered, how it should look. Everything has a shader. These shaders used in this game for the characters and the Pokemon are significantly simpler, and that is good because there's much less performance costs. It means that the game engine can run these, rendering these visual assets, and it won't have a significant negative performance on the frame rate, which is good. So even though it is simpler, the artistic direction and vision here is much more well considered, and having these rim lighting really makes things look interesting. Something I just noticed here are you're able to see through Beedrill's wings here to some degree. That's kind of interesting. I just want to have a quick look at that again. That is, oh, you know what that is? Okay, these are flat. I think there's not that many polygons on the wings, and it's bending back, and it's actually starting to point away from the light source, and so it's becoming darker. That's what that is. You're not seeing through that. That is the wing bending back, tilting away from light source. Okay. So again, we see that blue haziness as things get into the distance, something that Scarlet and Violet was pretty bad at, except for when the game was depicting sunset or sunrise, it looked okay. You can see as the angle of geometry changes, you can actually see the rim lighting. Apparently it becomes apparent on a more a surface that is pointed more directly at the viewing camera here. You can see even the rim lighting on the NPCs here. Now, in earlier trailers, it looked like NPCs were using a simpler shader that seemed to not have the rim shader here, but it is present here. And so I think there will probably be a more consistent use of that. The character that's in shadow here seems like they're not affected, but this guy is affected by the lighting. So you can achieve rim lighting a number of ways. You can either have a light attached to the camera, basically pointing at the camera, or you can achieve that through calculations in the shader. It's easier to manage global lighting overall if you just have a light that's attached to the viewing camera, but there are serious limitations with that. You can see the rim lighting on, I was gonna say, his Wananoko, is that his Japanese name? Totodile there. See, this is where I believe that rim lighting here is actually part of the shader. It's calculated. It's sort of an effect that you can apply to the character model. But here's where you can see that rim lighting again. It really stands out there just along the very edges, even though I'm in front of this Budew here, so forget it. You can see it on the Beedrill's leaves just there, and now there's significant haziness. I believe this is distance fog. It's not advanced volumetric lighting, it's distance fog, which is simple. We've had that for decades, but it still has the intended effect of making the environment look organic and that they are fading into the distance there. So something I've noticed, I believe that rim shader is connected to a value of specularity, because I tend to see it not expressed that much on the skin part of the characters, but on the clothes. So I believe maybe they've defined the pants that have a higher specularity, and you can see that rim shader is apparent just there. And you can even see the rim shader expressed here on the shoulder straps, but not that obvious on the shirt. Could be because the shirt is lighter or the shirt has a lower specularity value. Let's keep going here. We have I believe our characters that just talk our way through the plot, but we can see that rim lighting just there is very apparent here, and again, it's just along the edges. It helps things really pop. This I thought was part of the rim lighting, but it's not. That's part of a coloration, a design on the jacket there. So no big deal. Let's keep moving through this. And something I've noticed that is very different in this as opposed to earlier trailers is the indoor lighting. There's a haziness, there's a softness to it. You could say that they've used a dense fog, but in the indoor areas it helps things look softer and more organic. It's just visually appealing in a way that was not present in Scarlet and Violet. It, to me, tells me that there's significantly much more consideration that has gone into the visual design of this game over Scarlet and Violet. To me, it looks like they've learned a lot of lessons, but I also feel like they have had significantly less time to develop this game. I believe that because of the way that the windows here do not have 3D geometry. This is just a texture. From a developer standpoint, I can respect this because this massively cuts down on development time. If there's a huge number of buildings that all have to have different visuals to them, it just takes a lot of time to model the geometry, and then to place the geometry on the building. That takes time out of your development period where you could be working on things that are just way more important. Having more variations, changing the height, the width, the length of these buildings, and then having to model that. If you just do one building, it's not going to take much time at all, but when you have a bunch of different buildings and they all have different dimensions and measurements, all of a sudden what seems like it should be a simple, easy task becomes monumental, and it detracts from the time that you could have spent doing other things as well. So I can respect this decision. I don't really like it as a gamer. I would prefer they modeled it, but I can understand. This to me tells me that they probably have not had a huge amount of time to develop this game, and they focused on other aspects. And I know this is just perspective here, but this Pidgey looks gargantuan. There's a problem with this Pidgey. He's a freak of his species. No, he's obviously in the foreground compared to that guy, but because of the angle here, it looks like he's standing next to this man, and he's enormous. So I can understand, I can respect the window thing. I don't like the way they look, but I understand from a development standpoint, this would have saved them thousands and thousands of hours of time not having to model that, because I see a lot of different buildings here. That was kind of, okay, I'm just going to point something out here. I'm probably going to try to lean away from this sort of thing, but at the end of, well, in X and Y, you sort of had a hologram thing, right? Where that one Elite Four gal could talk to you as a hologram, I think. I'm not sure if I'm remembering. We've seen this guy all over the place. We see him a lot. Okay, so if we have a look in the shadow here, well, we're still getting some rim lighting, even though this person is in the shadow. So you can have a light source, and the light source can be set to affect the character models, but not the buildings. So that way, even though the buildings are casting a light, even though the buildings cast a shadow on the characters, the rim light can still shine through that because it's not affected by the buildings. Or you can have that rim just part of the shader. I personally would take the light approach, the light source, because you can change it. Now this to me is a little, I'm seeing shadows. Is this a cloud overhead? Okay, I think this is a cloud. Casting a blob shadow from above, no big deal. But here's a situation where you can see that rim lighting really helps save light pop just there. You can see these are billboards. The trees here, let me go ahead and adjust that. It looks like my window is, go ahead and adjust that here. Those are billboards there, again, after a certain distance. These look like billboards. They're flat geometry. They're not a 3D model of a tree anymore. They're just flat. And then those are even simpler. For some reason, these are very, very dark. So I'm not sure what is going on there, why they don't seem to be affected by light sources, because these are, you can have billboards have normal map data, so they can still catch light and they can look like they have geometric detail to them. I think that rim shader is programmatic. I think the rim light is part of the shader. That's what I'm feeling here. Okay, here's another example where you can see that. And I really like this aesthetic because it makes it feel, it evokes the sense of hand-drawn art of 2D sprite work, because that's how we would have created highlights in sprite work and 2D art here. I just like the way it looks. It really helps the visuals pop, and it looks more interesting than the aesthetic in Scarlet and Violet, and I quite enjoyed Scarlet and Violet. I actually really like those games. I really enjoyed the gameplay. This character's name is Corbeau, which is the French word for crow, and everyone knows the old French poem Maître Corbeau sur un arbre perché tenait en son bec un fromage, Maître Reynard puis le dérocher limitant à peu près ce langage. Everyone knows it. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a character named Reynard, and then they're sort of a rival to Corbeau. I don't know who's got his Mega Stone there. That's kind of a fun detail there. Everyone should have a Mega Stone. So I'm not sure what this character's deal is here, but maybe he's a red herring and he ends up not being a villain. Who knows? I'm just going to look at the resolution of the shadows here. It's hard to tell here, but I think the resolution is going to be higher resolution in Scarlet than Scarlet and Violet. And of course it's going to look, I think it's going to look the same. I do not believe that Game Freak would allocate the resources to make the game look better on Switch 2. I believe the only differences that this game will have between Switch and Switch 2 is that Switch 2 will run at higher resolution and higher frame rate. What I would like is for the game to make some changes in the Switch 2 version. I would like textures and shadows to be higher resolution, and I would like the draw distance to be farther, particularly for shadows. Switch 2 is significantly stronger. Switch 2 should be drawing shadows at a farther distance, but what we are going to see, like we have seen with Scarlet and Violet, is the shadows stop being drawn, stop being rendered after about 50 feet. I'm just going based on if I was, well, when you do archery or if you do throwing weapons, you have to be able to judge distances, especially when it comes to archery. It's a huge deal. So I'm just trying to put my headspace into the game environment here. And I would say in Scarlet and Violet, probably about 50 yards is when shadows stop being rendered. But we can see here where the shadows are being rendered, and then just beyond that, the shadows are no longer rendered. On Switch 2, the hardware is so powerful, there isn't a reason to cull the shadows at so close a distance. This is very close. Now, I'm just going to look at that. That's probably closer to, oh, that's more than 50 yards. That's probably closer to maybe 70 yards or so, that distance right there, judging from where the camera is behind the character. Kid here has stoner face and he's much too young for that. Okay, look at these guys. They're little adorable fellows. I'm just fascinated by the shader they've used, because it's a flat shader here, but it's still able to catch the shadows cast. I very much like this aesthetic they've chosen for this one. And then underneath you can see there's a very soft expression of that part of the character's body being occluded from the light, so to speak. Sometimes I feel occluded by the light. Okay, we got our Houndour. We got our foliage here. I do like the UI. I enjoy the liveliness of it. It does feel in line with X and Y, which sort of leans into this technologically advanced location, especially with the hologram things and whatnot. We have a lot of particle effects, but there's nothing to note really about the particles. Here's where the rim lighting looks pretty good just here, and even catches here on the thread of his leg. Let me move out of the way here. That's where things really pop. You know, I think it's just a minor thing that just makes things look good, you know. We have, so because the texture, this is texture based, it's very easy to manage all of this programmatically, turning lights off and on. There aren't actually lights. What they're using is emissive texture map. It's a texture file that basically says this part of the texture is not going to be darkened by shadows. It's emitting light. It's not going to be affected by that. So you can make it look like it's emitting light, even though it is not emitting light. What it is doing is not being darkened by the shadows of the scene, basically. If you were to have to do all of this with 3D models, it would be so much more work. Yeah, you'd have to have people on your team that are dedicated to doing all of that stuff, and just having it through a texture means that you can manage it through one texture file, and it just saves hundreds of hours of work even on that. Here's a Mega Dragonite. I'm not a giant fan of this design, but it is growing on me a little bit. I don't know if that's because I've been Stockholm syndromed into it. I spoke previously on it explaining why I don't really like the design, but it is growing on me a little bit. So I have nothing to say about the particle effects, and it's what we come to expect. There's nothing good or bad. The water looks fine. I don't really have anything fancy to say about that. But I really like the flatter look that they've chose, because it looks more like a hand-drawn anime as opposed to the advanced light from Scarlet and Violet. That's fine. I like the way Scarlet and Violet looks, but I also really like the way this looks. It looks like it's a hand-drawn anime. It's evoking that sense, and I really like that look. This looks fine. These two characters are about to kiss. No big deal. Maybe there's a friendship mechanic here, but they're getting awfully close. I am looking forward to seeing what the mega evolutions are. There's been leaks and whatnot, and I'm not sure if I put too much stock in them. This is what I mean by the lighting in the indoor environments just looks significantly better. What they've done is they've basically just used fog, a very dense fog at close distance, and it gives the room a dusty feeling. There's no way that a room like this would ever look like that unless it was extremely dusty. And we understand that subconsciously. We know a room might look like this if it were very dusty. And so this is evoking that sense, that thought. And it just gives this environment an organic, dense feeling. It makes it look like there's density in the atmosphere. It looks interesting. This is what I really like. I think this is telling at how much better this game is going to look. It's aesthetically, it's visually way more coherent, way more thought out than Scarlet and Violet. This scene alone tells me this game's going to look way better than Scarlet and Violet. It's basically because they've used, a little bit of fog, and it's just telling. You have, of course, the rim lighting that helps characters pop and stand out, and it looks cool. Heyo. See, even there, you can see there's a softness to the environment behind him. The black levels are dropped, and so the black levels back here are softer, and it helps the characters stand out more. If this scene were to be in Scarlet and Violet, the black levels in the environment would be the exact same black levels that we see on the character, and it would just be harsh on the eyes. It would be muddy. It would be harder to focus on the visual elements that we should be looking at. So this is it. It's great. I think this looks great. Okay, we have a Zygarde. What's a little dude called? What's a little dude called? This is my favorite form. I didn't realize that his butt illuminates. That's kind of a weird detail. I think I think it broke me. I think Zygarde Togg's butt illuminating has broken me. Here's the thing, here's what I was thinking. Okay, I was thinking, oh, all of the green elements. I thought the green elements on his body must be pulsating with light and illuminating. No, it's it's just his butt that illuminates. I can do it. I'm an adult. Okay. I got it. I can do it. All right. Yeah, this looks fine. I'm wondering if it's a situation where you can buy the Switch 2 edition, dig that into your Switch, and then that'll play on the original Switch, or you can take it out and then dig it into the Switch 2 and then it plays. Or do you buy the Switch version and then you can purchase the upgrade pack for the Switch 2? I'm not sure. I don't know. But we've seen another game where you can take the Switch 2 version and dig it into the Switch and it works fine. So October 16. Yeah. I'm interested in this game. This is something that's interesting to me. I'm looking forward to playing it. I have a feeling I won't have the time to beat the game because I'm so busy with my work. But I'll probably play about 12 hours into it or so, and then I'll have to get back to work, and then maybe I'll chip away at it over the next few years as I experience existential dread knowing that I won't be able to play the vast majority of games that I want to play, but that's no big deal. I really like this scene here. You can see these windows. Okay, so we do have light sources here, which I believe these are set to be actual light sources, and these ivy vines are actually catching the light. There would be a combination of geometric data and also normal map data, and a normal map is simply a texture that gives the game instructions on how bumpy some things should be. Yeah, this looks good. I like how the leaves are catching just a little bit of light, just a little bit, just there. It really helps it pop, you know. And of course, the ivy vines are not just a texture that are on the building. They have their own geometric data. You can see it there, you know. They have their own geometry. You can see them catching real-time light from those. So this looks good to me. I really like, oh, food, man. Food in video games and anime always make me hungry for some reason. I don't know why. It's just like a secret weakness. It just sort of hits you. Anyway, I'm interested in hearing from you if you think this game looks good or if you think it looks bad. I'm interested in hearing why you think it looks good or bad. I'm really enjoying this. I at first didn't think I would like the way that it looks because Scarlet and Violet they had advanced lighting and it looked cool. But the more I see this, the more I prefer it to Scarlet and Violet. Is this a new Furfrou design, or was this in the original? I'm not sure because I'm not a poodle guy, so I've never been into that lifestyle. So I don't recall all of the Furfrou forms from X and Y. Anyway, thanks for watching. Okay, take care of yourselves. Be well.